Hari Ju ki jai. Jai Vishnupad Jagat Guru Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Rupanu Guru Varga ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswata Acharya Brinda ki jai. Samadeta Vaishnava Mandali ki jai. Sri Harinama Sankirtan ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. So welcome everyone to our Sunday afternoon broadcast from the East London branch, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mott. Today is the 30th of July, and I think mainly most of our devotees have gone to the Rathayatra festival down in central London today. So we are just a few today, but we will continue. As we were reading the Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, thank you, Volume 1, and we are now on Chapter 3, which is called The Success of Faith. These are taken from Srila Guru Maharaj's talks in English between 1981 and 1988, and this, as I said, this chapter is called The Success of Faith. Put this on. Put a glue on that. Hare Krishna. Okay. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written, Sakala Chodiyabai, Shraddha Devera Gunagai, Janma Kripa Bhakti Dite Pare. Give up everything, let us sing in praise of Shraddha Devi, faith, whose grace can take us to Krishna. Shraddha, faith, is the most subtle thing, and it is also the most tangible. It is not imaginary. We must realize that it is reality, it is concrete, and not merely an abstract sentiment of mere individual consciousness. Prabhu, could you give me my magnifier? Thank you. So, faith. We must realize that it is reality, it is concrete, and not merely an abstract sentiment of mere individual consciousness. Faith is universal as the most fundamental element that can connect us with the finest objective. Through electricity or radio, we can establish communication over a long distance. The science is very subtle and not known to anyone and everyone. Yet, we cannot deny its existence. It has its tangible position. But faith is much more subtle, and through it one can establish both higher contact and reciprocation. Subtle faith is not approachable by anyone and everyone. It has its tangible existence. Jai Gurudev.
Has its tangible existence.
And it may function in any circumstance if we have its peculiar contact. We cannot give false statements that we possess it. Our power and grandeur are not necessarily any proof of its presence. in us. Despite great pomp and show, all we personify may be falsehood. We should be very cautious to maintain our contact with genuine faith. Of course, sincerity is the main requirement for faith's connection. No price, however valuable in this world, can purchase it. The qualification is lolium, our sincere and earnest desire for the thing. No one can produce the absolute, and no price can purchase him. The absolute necessity is our sincere desire and earnestness. With insincerity, we cannot make a trade with him. He is not so foolish as to become an object of trade for anybody. Sincere desire for him is required, and that will awaken the conception to serve him. We want him sincerely through affection. We love him, so we desire him. And to love means to sacrifice for the object of love. So I think it's important to say that when Guru Maharaj is talking about faith, he's not talking about, when I believe in this or I believe in that, and, not that kind of faith, but actually means a real substantial connection with the plane of truth, with the plane of reality. And that's called Shraddha. But Shraddha, I'm not sure it exactly translates as faith. But faith's probably the nearest word that would suit it. But it doesn't, faith can also mean like what you believe in, what I believe in, which is very subjective and not necessarily anything to do with the truth. So we shall see.
Maybe like
Thank you,
firm conviction or something?
Yeah, I think Prabhupada said Shraddha means faith in the sublime, or faith in that which you can't measure by any objective means. Yes. So it's another level of faith, rather than just saying, I believe in this or I believe in that, or which is changeable and
not blind.
Yeah. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu has given a beautiful definition of the word Bhagavan. Bhajaniya Sarva Shad Guna Vishishta. The Supreme Lord Bhagavan is of such a nature that everyone who comes in contact with him will want to serve him and to sacrifice themselves for his satisfaction. This is the result of faith in its developed form. From?
I can't remember, but it's like you said, this is a faith in a more established order, something leading up to that.
Okay, I'll just read it from there. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu has given a beautiful definition of the word Bhagavan. Bhajaniya Sarva Shadguna Vishishta. The Supreme Lord Bhagavan is of such a nature that everyone who comes in contact with him will want to serve him and to sacrifice themselves for his satisfaction. This is the result of faith in its developed form. He is so noble, we shall think that if we die to satisfy him, our life's objective will be fulfilled. His noble quality is such that it draws so much sacrificing spirit for him. It draws everything towards him. Die to live. Faith is such. So just before you came, we were saying that Guru Maharaj, when he's speaking about faith here, he's not talking about, what you believe in, what I believe in, what Harry believes in, Joe believes in. But rather Shraddha, which is faith in the spiritual reality. We are in an ocean of faith, and the devotees are the essential agents. Each helps the other. We are much relieved from the fatigue and trials of a long journey if we have a companion or the association of a group. Similarly, in this ocean, if we obtain help of devotees of similar nature to ours, that will be most conducive. Even our Guru Maharaj, in a speech he delivered on his Vyasa Puja, his holy appearance day, addressed his disciples, Vipada Udharana Bandhugan, O my friends, who can give me relief from danger. To me, you are my deliverers from danger. In the ocean of faith, it is very difficult to journey onward alone, so you have to come to help me in my dangerous, ambitious journey in the infinite. You have come, and you are engaging me in talking about him, and so you have given me some engagement. Otherwise, to live and move alone in the infinite is very difficult, troublesome, and dangerous. You have all come to hear something, and in this exchange of talks about him, the situation has been made very safe and easy to journey so far towards Vaikuntha. We must be conscious of our real position when we are searching for Krishna. It is not easy, and also it is very easy, both simultaneously. Faith is the only capital by which we can make our journey towards the infinite. Bhakti, devotion, has no beginning and no end. Ahoituki apratiyata. There is no beginning, it is there already. Before we came to know about it, it was there. It was there, it is there, and it will be there. No one can resist it. That bhakti, that faith is irresistible. It is part of the eternal substance. Its very nature is eternity. None can oppose it. We only have to make contact and associate with it, and the wave will carry us towards our goal. And if we can have the company of devotees, the journey becomes very easy and pleasant, whereas to go alone is very difficult. In the progress of our contact with faith, when we come to take benefit from the devotees and have faith in them, we are more safe, and our progress is also tangible. It comes to reality. From a vague, abstract position, faith becomes deeper within us. We can then recognize many others with the same objective in life, and our journey becomes easier. It becomes conceivable. It comes into measurement. When we have faith in the real devotees, we can come in contact with such a tangible thing. Thus, the position of the devotee is very important in our journey, especially in the middle stage. In the primary stage, not much importance is given to the devotees. With only a vague conception from the scriptures and with the help of previous accumulated merits or sukriti, the journey is begun. But gradually the beginners find that to journey onwards in the infinite is not an easy thing. We thought that with a little progress we could attain the desired end, but now we find that it is not so. When we come to consider the real position of devotion, of what is God, He is universal. He is the ultimate goal, and we may gradually become disappointed. But if along the way we take help from the devotees of similar objective, we shall feel much relief by their company, even though the destination may be far away. The difficulties of the journey are more prominent in the second stage. In the primary stage, we're not very exclusive in our objective, and so we do not experience much difficulty. Real difficulties begin when we enter into the journey exclusively with no other objective than to engage our whole energy towards that high and elevated path. And if we are actually to achieve a touch of the highest stage, the Mahabhagavat stage, the journey again becomes easy. But the middle portion is difficult, and at that stage the devotees are very important to save us. This is the period of both tangible acquisition and difficulty. Our failings on the path to realization are to be rectified in the middle stage. When we enter into war, in the beginning we have much hope, we feel confident, but the real test is when the fighting begins. And when we finally conquer, we again become very satisfied. But the middle, when the war is being conducted, that is the difficult period. At that time, our co-workers and comrades who fight along with us are very, very important to us. I am not alone, but there are many others battling alongside me in the middle fighting period of war. Those companions are important. Some may disappear from the field, but there will be others to encourage me. Similarly, on this journey we may see that many stalwarts are falling. It may discourage us to see such respected persons going away, falling in the middle path. Nonetheless, in the midst of those unfavorable circumstances, there are others who are bravely making progress with unflinching faith, and they will help us. To stick it out to the end is difficult, but important and valuable. The test comes and shows how much faith we actually have. Nothing comes in vain, and we must take everything that happens in this way. There may be so many stalwarts like Bhishma and Drona who fall flat on the battlefield, but still we must go on. Karmadi evadi karaste mafaleshu kadachana. We are out to fight to the end. We must achieve our end of life, and we can imbibe such firmness from the character of the devotees. The Shastra will also offer helpful advice, but the association of the devotees is nevertheless of ultimate importance. We need lasting faith, not flickering faith. Oh, I attempted for some time, but I didn't find anything tangible, any tangible fruit from Bhakti, so I left it. Or, to me it seemed very, very vague. When I began, I thought that this is something tangible that I would quickly attain, but it's not so. It's uncertain. I'm giving so much energy for the cause, but still the desired result is not achieved. Previous tendencies will draw us from the negative side, and so we find that many stalwarts are falling. Still, we have to persevere in this journey, and we shall have to take courage from those who are standing and who are deeply engaged. Though it is told hundreds of times that the Absolute is infinite, in the beginning we still tend to take it in the conception of the finite. We are accustomed to think of anything and everything in terms of finite. So although we hear that it is infinite, it is Vaikuntha, it has no limit, we nonetheless cannot grasp the proper meaning. But when we make practical progress, many new conceptions must come to our knowledge. Now, when our Guru Maharaj addressed his disciples as Vipada Udarana Bandhugan, my dear friends who have come to deliver me from danger, we should of course recognize such a statement from both the relative and the absolute standpoint. Students are a necessary part of a professor. When a professor has students, he feels the practical utility of his life has been successful. Thus, from the relative point of view, the disciples can help the Acharya. But from the absolute standpoint, Krishna's will is everything, and the Nitya Siddha, or eternally perfect great souls, who inwardly know the Lord's intentions, cannot be disturbed by any danger in any respect, but outwardly such an appearance may be manifest in their dealings. Matchita matgata prana bodhayanta parasparam. Katayantas chamam nityam tushanticha ramanticha. Of course, from the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Matchita, their attention is in me. Matgata pran, their energy is also spent for my cause. Bodhayanta parasparam, they mutually assist one another. This reminds us of the Napoleonic chair. Once, when stranded in a marsh, Napoleon arranged that each man sit on the lap of the other in a circular formation, and each automatically protected the other from the otherwise fatal cold, and they could all remain awake to pass the whole night of intolerable cold. Otherwise his army would have perished. So by mutual help, one devotee is asking questions, another is answering, and they are both getting engagement. The questioner is giving some energy, and the answerer is also energizing. Bodhayanta parasparam. Those of equal standing exchange their thoughts about Krishna. Katayantas chamam nityam. And thereby their blissfulness is generated. By mutual understanding and discussion, a kind of nectar arises that nourishes the devotee. One is asking something about me and another is answering, and thereby that discussion creates a flow of nectar that nourishes both parties. Tushanticha ramanticha. Satisfaction is generated from the mutual understanding, and it develops up to ramanticha, up to the quality of the absolute reciprocation. The wholesale transaction, it rises up to that standard. Ramanticha, and again I give them further installment, an illumination of a new light. Dadami buddhiyogam tam. And they take a new course and are promoted into the suicide squad, that squadron which is eligible for every type of service. Nothing to do with suicide bombers. When Srila Govinda Maharaj was in New York, one devotee came to see him there. And he's like, kind of renowned, famous in ISKCON as being a scholar. And he came for 5 days, and every day he's asking Maharaj many difficult questions about Siddhanta. I don't know what those were, but Gurudev told us. He was asking these questions every day. And after 4 or 5 days, then Gurudev said to him, "So Prabhu, you're satisfied with my answers or not?" He said, yes Maharaj, so satisfied. I couldn't hear anything like this anywhere else. I'm incredibly satisfied. And then Gurudev said to him, "Then now what will you do with those answers?" And he was puzzled. I don't really understand, Maharaj. And he said, if you are happy with the answers that I've given you, and they're very deep and difficult questions, then if you're satisfied with those answers, then you have to come with me. And that devotee said, I don't have any money now, I can't come. But Gurudev didn't mean, join my party and come on the world tour with me. He meant, where I'm going, you have to join me in that. And he said, otherwise, all your questions have just been a waste of time, haven't they? If it isn't going to actually change who you are within, then all of your questioning, you've wasted your time and you've wasted my time. So, to inquire from the devotee, there must be some result of that, not just some, intellectual package that you can store for later use, in armchair philosophy or something. It has to be real. It has to inspire us to do something positive. In other words, to move towards the the destination in a deeper way, in a higher way, and not just physical movement, which is kind of what he thought Gurudev was saying, but some deeper kind of inward movement. That particular type of soldier is competent to fight on the land, in the water, in the sky, or in any circumstance, and he is prepared for any form of fighting, any form of service. I direct them to that section. Yena mamupayanti te. Unconditional service. They are ready for any service demanded of them. They are ready to sacrifice their lives for any form of service, and that peculiar group is in Vrindavan. I mentioned to Sripad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj that in the Gita, after Ramanti comes Buddhi Yogam Tam, and then Upayanti. According to me, the meaning is that Ramanti, or divine service in Madhura Rasa, progresses through Buddhi Yoga or Yogamaya up to Upayanti, or the highest plane of service in Vrindavan. Sripad Swami Maharaj responded, what more could it mean than that? Hence, Upayanti means Kama Rupa. In his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami has mentioned Sambandha Rupa and Kama Rupa, the two types of Ragatmika Bhakti, or devotion rendered by the eternal associates of the Lord, headed by the residents of Braja. In Sambandha Rupa, the Lord's associates cooperate according to their fixed relative position of Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya or Madhura, where in Kama Rupa, they come forward to serve any necessity that is demanded of them. They are ready to serve they are ready to serve any and every desire of the Absolute. They are like that group of soldiers who have been mentioned and trained to do any service in the war without being limited to fighting only in a particular division, such as the Army, Navy or Air Force. They are prepared for all sorts of service anywhere. Such is the Kama Rupa group. This is Upayantite. They are awarded the instruction, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, by which they earn such capacity in the service of the Supreme that Krishna is ready to cooperate with those servitors in any position. In Mathura, he even gave Sairindri Kubja the chance to render higher service. Krishna is prepared for anything, and so the other side, they're also prepared, it means. His servitors must also be prepared in that way. The high conception of Kama Rupa is very, very abstruse. It is most difficult for ordinary mortals to comprehend. Tesham evanukam patam aham agyan tamaha nasyami atma bhavashto jnana dipena bhashvata. This is also in 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I am so indebted to those devotees that whenever they feel the pain of my separation, I cannot tolerate it. I immediately run to cooperate with them in accepting my service. Such is the intensity of the demand I feel from them. In an examination hall, many of us may sit for the examination, and yet many are unsuccessful and fall back. But we are not to dwell on them. Rather, we shall try to keep company with the successful candidates. They should be the focus of our attention, and with their help we shall progress. Progress means selection and elimination, and there is no end of making progress. We must take courage to that extent. Everywhere and in whatever direction we may go, we shall find both successful and unsuccessful candidates. We shall try to avoid the unsuccessful. Some may be brilliant in the primary class, but in progressing further, we find they are proving dull and cannot pass the test. And there may be many who were not successful in primary classes, but flourish in higher education. Thus we should not be discouraged or disappointed on hearing that so many once respected stalwarts are falling away. We should try to feel the actual soil. We need a sincere acquaintance with the soil on which we are moving. It is unintelligible to the fullest extent, but we must spare some energy to cultivate a deep feeling for where we are, what we want, and where we are going. We must have the deepest feeling for the plane of our objective and achievement. We must not allow ourselves to be captured by the outer charming things, but we should try to feel and trace the reality as our friend. Kleshagni shubhada moksha laguta krit sudurlabha Sandrananda Visheshadma Shri Krishna Karshani Chasha. This is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Uttama Bhakti, the purest devotion, is the vanquisher of all sin and ignorance, and the bestower of all auspiciousness, and liberation is belittled in the presence of such devotion, which is very rarely attained, and the embodiment of the deepest ecstasy, and the attractor of Sri Krishna himself. Even if we achieve liberation from all the undesirable forces around us, pure devotion undermines this position of liberation. Moksha lagutta krit. We may be liberated souls free from the reactions and apprehensions of the future, but association with the positive engagement, bhakti, is much more difficult to attain. Sudurlabha. To obtain a passport is not the same as acquiring a visa. One may have a passport, but in order to secure a visa, it will have to be necessary to undergo more trouble. In other words, we may be released by the reactionary plane, yet we may not have entrance into the higher plane. To have entrance there is far beyond this liberation. The qualification to eagerly aspire to give oneself wholly for the other plane of life is hardly to be found in anyone. Such a person has no motive to acquire anything for the plane in which he had previously been living for so long. Furthermore, if he is appointed to be a preacher, an agent to do relief work here, he will execute that duty solely under the appointment of and in the interest of that higher plane, without any attachment that I shall bring some good to the people. He will think, I must put myself wholly at the disposal of that highest plane, and I shall not be eager to become an acharya or a spiritual master. Otherwise there is the danger of committing namaparad, offense against the Lord's holy name. Ashadudane vimukhe pi ashrinvati yas chopa deshaha shiva namaparadaha. It is an offense to give the holy name to the faithless. It betrays the motivation to gain a position in the higher sphere. This is a type of mundane attachment, a spiritual treachery, as is the habit of the caste Goswamis and other spurious lines. Rather, the healthy attitude should be, if I am appointed from above, then I shall serve as appointed, and that too only for the interest of those who have appointed me. I am entering that rank solely for the interest of that highest land. That should be the pure and perfect approach. So with a passport alone, we cannot hope to enter easily into that higher plane, which is Sudurlabha, very rarely attained. But if we can enter, we shall feel Sandra Nanda Visheshatma. Yes, the very place itself is most happy and full of independent spirit. I desired to secure a visa to enter this country, and now I find that it really is as promised. I directly perceive that, and I am breathing it in a far more sweeter atmosphere, a homely atmosphere, that far exceeds anything of my previous soil. And finally, Shri Krishna Karshini Chasha, Krishna himself, reality the beautiful, who attracts the heart of all, even he is attracted by the dedication of his surrendered servitor. Neither power nor knowledge have any play in this domain, but the sweet absolute is captured solely by the love of his devotee. All right. So that's chapter 3. Anyone have any question or?
What's the difference between a dogmatic follow-up of religion and secret truth?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
The dogmatic follower of religion is that. Follows the rules and regulations, but not much interest more than that. And a seeker after truth will go wherever that takes us. Actually, Srila Guru Maharaj would say religion means proper adjustment with the environment, or sympathetic dealings with nature, he would say. That is the meaning of religion. So, but we're not actually interested in religion. As Srila Prabhupada taught us, religion's just a rubber stamp. Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Jew, they're just all rubber stamps. So, and many so-called religious people, they're only interested in the outward form of that. So that means, the dogmatically following rules and regulations, or this is mentioned in Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami, to, follow fanatically, obsessively, or to neglect the rules and regulations, whimsically. Both are not desirable. You see, in some religious conceptions that are prevalent in the world today, that's all they have is their rules and regulations. In fact, within their teaching, there isn't any room even for personal awakenment or development. That's not even a consideration. The only consideration is how strictly you follow the rules and regulations. I saw a documentary, and not to put too fine a point on it, I don't need to say who we're talking about, but I saw a documentary which was like a secret investigation into the people living in Afghanistan some years ago. And on Friday, Friday's the day when all the faithful Muslims go to the mosque, right? You have to, that's like the rule. You have to go to the mosque on Friday. And in their government compound, they had a thing. It was actually called the Ministry of Justice. So it sounds very Orwellian. And on Friday, there's these guys. They just drive around in a jeep, trying to catch anyone who's not at the mosque. Never mind that they're not at the mosque. They're driving around, and anyone who's not at the mosque, they arrest them. Oh, you're not at the mosque, punishable offence. So, and they have, like a place in the Ministry of Justice where they hold offenders for various things, and so they're interviewing all these. The guards were cooperating with them, and they're asking them, like, why are these people here? What have they done wrong? So a lot of them were there because they got caught not being at the mosque on Friday, and they said, so what's the punishment for not being there? 100 lashes, and they'll each get 100 lashes for that. Okay, and what about these two? This man and this woman. The man was giving this woman a lift in his car, but she's not his wife. She's his brother's wife. So that's a punishable crime, to be in a vehicle with someone else's wife. Even if it's your sister, basically. Any civilized person thinks their brother's wife is their sister, right? But he's giving her a lift somewhere. They were stopped. They were arrested. What's the punishment? 100 lashes each. Mostly it was 100 lashes each. Another man, he was in there for trimming his beard, because that's also against the rules. You're not allowed to trim your beard. So 100 lashes for him also, Hare Krishna. And so many, they're doing whatever it was. Oh, there were women in there who were secretly educating their daughters at home, teaching them to read and things. So 100 lashes all for them. And then they came to this one fellow, and what's his crime? He's apostate. That means he's given up his faith. He doesn't believe in Islam anymore, And they said, so what's his punishment? He said, his punishment is that he'll be stoned to death. I said, oh, that seems a bit harsh. Like, has anyone tried to talk to him, acquaint him with the teachings, and try and get him, bring a couple of imams in and preach to him, get him out of Maya or whatever, No. It's very clear. The punishment for apostasy, stoning to death. This is religious fanaticism. It's nothing to do with spiritual life at all. None of that, not even slightly. There was also a woman in Pakistan who brought a charge to the elders of the village, because they make the law, the elders of the village, right? That she'd been sexually abused by this other man, who wasn't her husband or anything. And rather than punishing that man, they decided that she should be punished by every man in the village being allowed to rape her.
I saw that.
Yeah, so this is their idea of justice. Yep. So, not just to single them out. I mean, but that is religious fanaticism, following of dogma without any understanding of, or any relation to God or reality. There's no question of, saintliness even, of trying to develop saintliness. It's all about just following rules and regulations. And who decides what those rules and regulations are? What, who interprets that?
It seems to me that to try and follow rules and regulations fanatically and artificially creates some kind of twisted mentality.
It does. It results in madness, ultimately.
The other thing is that during medieval times, there were a number of very deep-thinking Islamic intellectuals,
Sure.
philosophers.
Yeah.
And many of them were considered heretics.
Yes.
Because they were actually thinking about things.
Yeah.
They were booted out. Like one that I read a book for. He was very intelligent, called Al-Ghazali. And he was ostracized from the whole community because, you know, he was thinking. Yeah, I'm talking about a Sufi, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Sufis have a different idea. But even so, I mean, even today there are Islamic scholars who are very deep thinking, intelligent people. Like many Islamic scholars say in ancient times, the best way to protect women was to keep them in the home and, you know, make them dress covering their face, all of these things. But today, the best way to protect women is to educate them. Education is the way to protect women in this age. But they're considered as heretics for saying such a thing, you know. So, but not just to single out Islam. Christianity has a very bleak history of similar kind of things, also. So, you know, then.
To go back on another point, you said, like the rituals and stuff, it's like a rubber stamping, but aren't we kind of rubber stamped in a way?
It depends on. That also depends on the practitioner, doesn't it? You know, if you think that Krishna consciousness is just about rituals or just about, you know, the external practices or the external appearance or, you know, all of the lifestyle or whatever.
Form over substance.
Yeah, that means you haven't understood the teaching. That it's not just about the form. And, you know, it's very easy for people to confuse the form with the substance, because the substance is couched within a form. But the those who aren't, you know, very astute, in other words, who aren't real seekers after truth, they can get caught up just in the form of things and think that form is Krishna consciousness. But unfortunately, it's not. Or fortunately, from whichever angle you look at it. Well, many things. There are many things that we do that. So the example that's been given is that by Siddhanta Saraswati is that the neophyte devotee thinks, today I'll make so many obeisances to the devotees, today I'll chant so many rounds of japa, today I'll do this, today I'll do that, and they think that these things will give them Krishna consciousness. But ultimately that's not true, because it's the inner motivation of everything that's all important.
When I first became a devotee in Toronto, Canada, there was no recognition of householders, grihasthas being devotees. If you weren't living in a temple,
right,
and you weren't living the life of a so-called brahmachari at the time, which, you know, was probably a facade for most anyways, but then you simply weren't a devotee, and you were looked down upon. In other words, there was not even any varnashram.
Yeah.
So it was just all, you know, like external, just viewing.
Right.
You live in a house and you have a car and
yeah.
You can't be a devotee.
I mean, from my angle, I can say a simple example for your question. Some time ago, some of us devotee friends decided to meet up, and we were discussing who makes what prasads to share afterwards, and then we had some people who were just throwing rules at us and saying, oh, we don't do this, we don't eat that, we don't eat this. But then my friend and I were asking, can you all help by bringing stuff? But no, they wouldn't get involved in bringing or helping. I mean, I'm talking from the point of view from people who work in the kitchen. And then, so my friends and I were struggling, and then we said, at one point we decided, okay, we are going to do this. Obviously, we are not going to have stuff which is prohibited or anything.
Yeah.
We stuck to as much as we can, and then apparently this happened another time. The devotees asking, oh, what's in this, what's in that? And one lady said, they're all Krishna Prasad, just eat. So that's again, people can throw rules at you, but it's more the focus is different, isn't it?
Once, when one of our devotees was, sort of like, I don't know, I suppose like a kind of the temple commander here, before we had the other temple, and two devotees came to me, a couple. They wanted to complain about her, and they're telling how they were dissatisfied with her behavior towards them, and basically their argument was, oh, she's not humble, she's not tolerant, she's not giving honor to us, and how is she following like Mahaprabhu's directive? This was their argument, and my reply to them was, Mahaprabhu didn't give us those guidelines to use as a stick for beating other people. They're for us. It's for us to practice humility, for us to be tolerant, and for us to give honor. And what others are doing, that's not our business.
Yeah.
Then, we're not looking to find out who's doing this or who's not doing that, or, we're not the thought police.
The tendency is for human beings to succumb to seeing externals rather than the inner esoteric aspect of things.
That's right, yes.
I mean, it just happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, although it may be a general indication, just that people think that quantity equals quality.
Yeah.
So that, this mission has so many thousands of devotees and you've got like 20 or 30 coming to your temple, then they must be more greater than, as far as devotion is concerned, because they've got more numbers. But we don't measure by that. Everything happens by the will of God. So, we can't say that just because there's more people here and more people than there are there.
Or bigger buildings.
Or bigger buildings, or more money, or more... None of those things, actually.
No.
When devotees came to see Guru Maharaj and they're talking about preaching, of course, Prabhupada's idea for preaching, and it is not wrong, it is right. His idea was, you live in the most wealthy countries in the world, like the United States of America, then you should offer the best of everything for Krishna's service. So then that translated into chandeliers in the temple room and gold this and gold that and all of these things. So when they were asking Srila Sridhar Maharaj about this, he said, yes, that's all very well, but there are some sadhus who love poverty.
Yeah.
And it was like, you could see the fuse blowing inside their head. They're like, love poverty? Like, this isn't what we're used to. Like, where's all the gold? Where's the silk and
Spartan
crystal?
conditions,
Exactly, yeah.
Are quite inspirational when you go to India.
Yeah.
You know?
In fact, Guru Maharaj would say, sometimes I feel things are becoming more complicated and I want to simplify even more, So, and he was that like archetypal kind of sadhu, that he loved poverty, he loved the simple life. And that's what Prabhupada taught, right? Simple living and high thinking. We're not, we may be making temples and everything, but we haven't come into this world to be builders and to be architects or anything. We've come to be servants of Krishna. And servants of Krishna's devotees. So that's the inner aspect. We can do so many things to facilitate that, but the facilitation of that isn't the thing that we want to give. Yeah. So we have a nice temple, all these things, but that purpose of that is not so that we can live in luxury, but rather that we can attract people to come and hear our presentation of Krishna consciousness, and that's the all-important thing. In fact, that's all we need. The only reason we need temples and all of that, only for that. So yeah, form and substance it boils down to. And the second part of your question, what is the, those who are actually seekers after the truth? Well, that should be always in the forefront. We should be searching for the truth, and the truth doesn't just end at a particular station, Truthville or something. Truth is always expanding and developing, and it's all ever increasing. Because truth has relative and absolute aspects to it also, and we have to transition from the relative truth to the absolute truth. But within the absolute truth, it's not just like a fixed stone or a rock or something. It's something that goes, in Guru Maharaj's language, deep, deeper, and deepest. There's not an end to that either, So there's no end to the search for the truth.
Even the very words in Sanskrit, sat, it means eternal.
Right.
It means something which has always been there and is expanding infinitely.
Yeah.
It's moving forward. And
in fact, that's what Guru Maharaj says here, we were just reading, that even when we come to deal with things which are infinite, we always see it from a finite position.
Exactly, yeah.
So, that's our problem, is that we're always casting our finite condition onto everything.
Yeah.
Like, I think maybe I've told this before, but I have a friend, good friend, in Calcutta, and he invited me to his house once, and it was the mango season, They're just like the first harvest of the mangoes, and, so there's like a festival, we're eating mangoes. And I mentioned, about Lord Chaitanya, how he planted a seed and it immediately grew into a mango tree to feed the devotees after the day's chanting Sankirtan. But this mango tree, the fruit, they had no skin and no stone. It was just the pure mango fruit. And my friend said to me, "No, that's not possible." I said, "What do you mean it's not possible?" And he said, "No, it must have been a different fruit, because a mango has a seed and a skin. If it doesn't have that, then it's not a mango. It must have been something else." And I said, "What? But you don't think? These are divine mangoes, right? That Lord Chaitanya planted there, and you understand that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna." "Yes," I understand that. So he can't make a mango that doesn't have a seed and a stone in it. Even scientists can make like seedless grapes, right? Yeah. How does that work? I'm still not sure how that works. Where do the new grapes grow from if there's no seeds? But anyhow, but he can't do that. No, he can't do that. So this is because we're projecting our finite thinking onto the infinite. The infinite can.
So we're essentially manufacturing reality.
Yeah, it has to be according to
apart from us.
To our idea.
Yeah.
So, like I said, but he can create all the planets, float them in the sky. They're all moving in their orbits around the sun. He can do all that, but he can't make a mango that doesn't have a skin or a stone in it. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So, Srila Guru Maharaj said, we should be prepared to understand that everything that we've conceived is wrong. Everything that we've understood about reality, it may be wrong. And even if it's right, he has the potential to be able to change all that. Everything goes along by the laws of physics and so on. But in a moment he can change all those laws and make a new set of laws, because that's his proclivity, that's his potency. He doesn't have to follow those laws that he's established. He can change them in a moment. But we're so conditioned to thinking it must be this way. Like I said, So one devotee gave us a lovely picture of on glass of Krishna playing his flute. But instead of holding the flute like this, as we traditionally see him, he's holding the flute like that. And everyone's going, we know that Krishna doesn't hold his flute like that. And I said, but he can, can't he? No, he's always like this. And I said, but he can hold it like that. He can hold it like this. He can play his flute any way he wants. It's not just because all the pictures we've seen are this way that it must be only that way. We have to give him, even a man can do that, right? Even, I don't know, what's his name, Hari Prasad Chaurasia. He plays the bonsai flute. He can play like that, he can play like that, he can play like that. He can do it, but not Krishna. Krishna has to conform to our idea.
Kant and Krishna don't belong in the same sentence.
No, that's right. So this is, Guru Maharaj has given us some explanation in this chapter of what is Shraddha. And although he uses the word faith, it doesn't mean faith in the ordinary sense. It means something much deeper. And like many words in Sanskrit, they don't have an exact English translation. But I guess faith is the closest translation that you will find to Shraddha. But maybe it needs a little more explanation than just faith. Because everyone says, I have faith. I have faith in the government. I have faith in, my family. I have faith in this. I have faith in that. But all those things can be proven wrong. So, then that's not the kind of faith that Guru Maharaj is talking about. He's talking about faith that comes from an actual, real connection with the infinite. And when that awakens within you, it's beyond the questions of this world, like this, like that. Or does it conform to this condition? Does it conform to that condition? It's something that's self-evident and something that you can't challenge. Ahoitaki apratiyata.
No cause.
There's no cause and there's nothing that can stop it. So that is the plane in which we're aspiring. We're living in this plane where everything is, becomes rotten eventually, everything. And we're aspiring for a plane where everything is eternal. Everything is not just eternal, but dynamic in its movement. It's not static, it's dynamic. It's always increasing, always becoming more. And that's almost inconceivable to us because we're linear thinkers. Everything has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But that's material thinking. And spiritual thought is going in a different way. And we can only grasp it to a certain extent, because thought is a process of the intellect. And the intellect can only help us so far. So this is why Mahaprabhu's philosophical treatise, if you like, is called Achinta Veda Ved Prakash. And purposefully Mahaprabhu's used this word Achintya, which means inconceivable. So ultimately, this is the first thing that we have to concede, is that we can't understand everything. That some things are beyond our understanding. They are achintya. And we don't just say that to gloss over the grey areas, or to use as an answer when we don't know what the answer is. It's achintya. No, it's fundamental to our understanding, as much as we're able, to our understanding of the spiritual reality. First, preliminary understanding is that all of that is achintya. But having said that, the infinite can make himself known to the finite. That's part of his infinite potency. but it's a fact. The other way round, the finite cannot know the infinite. Srila Maharaj would say, no amount of finite will ever equal infinite. It's just, by its very definition, it can never, add up all the finite. It still falls a long way short of infinite. So, from our finite position and our finite capacity, we're attempting to deal with the infinite. Some people would say that's crazy. But what else do we have to do? and really that's because we can understand, at least philosophically, that we're meant to live in that infinite plane. We're not meant to live in this finite world. As Saraswat Thakur said, living in the material world's camp life. Like you go camping and you live in a tent and everything's temporary.
Homeless.
Yeah.
Realm of the homeless.
So we shouldn't try and make, like a fancy tent and think that that's our eternal home.
I've heard the famous verse in the Ishopanishad described in the form of a simple mathematical formula. That is infinity plus infinity equals infinity.
Right.
Infinity minus infinity equals infinity.
Yes.
Right? That's
Yes.
the whole thing, Om Purnam Purnam.
Yes. Srila Guru Maharaj said the infinite is very much like zero.
Yeah.
0 plus 0 is 0, 0 minus 0, 0, 0 times 0, 0, 0, divided by 0, 0. So we can also say the very same thing about the infinite.
Yes.
That it, by its very nature, is infinite. And because it's infinite, that means it's achintya. It's inconceivable to us. This cup will only hold so much liquid. It can keep pouring and pouring, but it's going to overflow. So Srila Guru Maharaj would say, what will you understand with your puppy brain? It was his expression. You have a brain, but it's like a puppy's brain. What will you actually be able to understand? Not so much. And we never come to the end. They said that to Isaac Newton at the time. We think you're you're brilliant, cleverest man in the whole world. And the most knowledgeable person in the whole world. And he said, well, all I can say is I know more than you do, because I understand that there's an ocean of infinite knowledge and possibilities, and I'm just collecting pebbles on the shore of that. So that's our situation also. So Guru Maharaj says infinite means everything is what it is plus its possibility. And he would say, who knows what's the possibility of a single grain of sand? So then, what to speak of everything else wonderfully existing in this material world. It has infinite possibility. By the touch of the infinite, because it's part of the infinite. The finite is part of the infinite. Then also it has some potential application to be infinite, or to connect with the infinite. When the finite becomes accepted by the infinite, you can say, is no longer considered finite anymore. So Srila Maharaj said, we're all Tatastha Shakti Jiva. But once the Tatastha Shakti Jiva takes shelter of the Chit Shakti, that means of the eternal plane of Krishna, then Tatastha, the Jiva is no longer considered Tatastha anymore. He's now considered to be part of the Chit Shakti. So that means, Krishna's associates, everything, they're not Tatastha Jiva like us. They're part of the Chit Shakti. They're situated in the eternal, infinite world, but not in a finite way. That's very difficult for us to conceive. And that's actually the wonderful thing about Krishna, is that he comes so close to us that he shows himself like he's one of us. And that in that way we have some access to be able to relate to him, even if it's in just a wondrous way. Otherwise it's not possible. Otherwise all of Krishna's Leela is totally inconceivable. But when he shows it to us, we get some glimpse and some, at least little understanding of that.
I always find it somewhat amusing that, when people, especially academics in universities and stuff, refer to Krishna's Leelas, or for that matter, the activities of demigods and things, as mythology.
Right.
When, I find personally that the very fantastic nature of it is confirmation of the reality of it.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't accept, if you were a being with ultimate potency and power, infinite capabilities, you wouldn't be like, trekking on the trains to work every morning, commuting with a briefcase and cutting the lawn and washing your car, and you know what I mean? Would you be doing that? Of course not. If you were God,
yes,
you would not do any of those things. It doesn't make sense. So I find, rather than that being mythology, I find that it makes sense that these incredible leelas take place. Because sorry, I remember there's a story about Emperor Akbar.
Yeah.
You know that story? Where he went, he was invited by the Vaishnavas to a diorama.
Yes.
At some festival, and he went and he looked at all the different gods, and then finally saw a murti of Krishna, and he said, "This must be God." And when he asked why, he said, "Because he doesn't have any work to do, he's just playing."
Right.
He said, so that all the rest have some work to do. But he's not bound by that. So it was an astute observation, you know what I mean?
Yes. Krishna is the wonderful wonder of wonders. Everything rests upon him, in both the material world and the spiritual world. And we aspire for connection with that plane.
Mm.
They may not be intelligible to us, all of these incredible things of Krishna, but we can understand from that, from what we can understand from them, that God isn't an old man with a long beard sitting in the cloud, rewarding the pious and punishing the wicked. He's better things to do with his time. But at the same time, which is also incredible, is that although he's fully occupied with his own business, if you like, his own leela, his own pastimes, he's still 100% capable of being present in the heart of all living entities, as the observer, the super soul. And when we are willing to turn to him, to try to surrender to him, he's fully capable of reciprocating with us, without even, skipping a beat for his own eternal lila. He can reciprocate every atom of your body, or of yourself, let's say. Guru Maharaj used that example. Every atom of yourself has a corresponding potential of fulfillment in Krishna. Whatever you need, whatever you think, whatever you want, you can get that fully and more in Krishna and nowhere else. So, and that's all he wants, actually, is for us to recognize that, and with our free will try to utilize that in satisfying him. It's a simple equation, really, but we're too unwilling to let go of our present circumstance and our present, what we perceive as our obligations in this world. Well, we have to do that, and then maybe later on we can move towards Krishna, or a little bit at a time. But it doesn't matter actually, because in infinite time, then there's infinite possibility. So today or tomorrow, who wants that, they will get that. And ultimately, from the beginning of our, spiritual journey, the major part of that is trying to actually understand what it is that we're in pursuit of, and how that will be most beneficial to us, and how we can leave our idea of what it should be to embrace what his idea is, of course.
Is that Sambandha type of?
Sambandha, yeah. Sambandha is a fully essential thing, So Guru Maharaj saying, when we hear the Bhagavatam class going, or the spiritual talk going, we shouldn't think, oh, that's just Gyan. We're not interested in Gyan and pass it by. But we are interested in Sambandha, a different type of Gyan. Sambandha Gyan means that the knowledge of what is what, the knowledge of who is who, who are we, who is Krishna, what is this world, what is our relationship to this world, to the other living beings in this world, and what is our relationship with Krishna. All of this is called Sambandha. It's essential knowledge for us to understand. And along with that comes Abhideya. How do we practice in such a way that we can draw his grace? How do we understand? How do we pray? What should we pray for? What should be the tenor of our approach? And finally, the prayojana, the goal of that, the Abhideya combined with Sambandha leads us to prayojana. Prayojana is the eternal service of Krishna and his devotees in Vaikuntha. And that is possible. Just part of our spiritual journey is like unraveling all of that, getting rid of the dross and misconceived ideas, and becoming more and more acquainted with the reality in a clean and clear way. Gradually all of the, non-essential, non-spiritual parts of our attempt disappears, becomes more and more refined. And we see that, that when we were young and we had so many things that we aspired for, so many things that we wanted in life, and now we're a little older, we understand really, if I got those things or didn't get those things, they weren't really what I was looking for anyway. So, with experience in life comes more realization also about life. So combine that with the advice of the saints and the scriptures, and we are going in the right direction. And Krishna is always there to help us. It's not that he's just left us here and said, get on with it, No, either he himself comes or he sends his agent, and we're able to engage with them, and they're able to help us to refine our understanding. As Srila Guru Maharaj would say, proper realization comes from proper conceptualization. And first of all, you have to find what is the proper conception. It's not our imagined conception, but the proper conception. And when we have that proper conception, if we are able to feed that and nurture that, that will become proper realization. that will give us what we require. Oh, they haven't made the offering yet, have they? It's getting on. Yeah, it's getting late. 5 minutes to party time.
So what have you been done?
Oh, all right. Jolly good. I didn't remember that, do you? Does anyone
I
remember
didn't see
that?
anybody coming in. It was just sneaked in.
Yeah.
At some point after this book has been read, is it possible to do a little bit of the Upadeshamrit, like toward the end, and maybe the different Nishchaya and and Shraddha and stuff?
Yeah, we're...
I just finished that book, and that part is really excellent.
It is. Yeah, definitely we'll move on to that at some point.
I don't think it was too, like esoteric or anything.
No, it's for us.
Yeah.
Govinda Maharaj said most of Rupa Goswami's writings are high Madhura Rasa subject matter. But 2 books he left for us.
Yeah.
The beginners, if you like. That is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, at least the first part of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Upadeshamrita. Can't stress enough how important Upadeshamrita is.
That's what I think too.
Yeah.
Everything practical is there.
When Tyagi Maharaj was working on it, it was like he worked on that book for like over 3 years. And I said to him, Maharaj, what's going on? That it's like 18 verses, right?
Is it even that long?
No, 11 verses.
Right?
11 verses. It's 11 verses. Like how can it take 3 years to do that? And then he showed me the manuscript, and it was like this thick. So okay, now I understand. Because it has the commentary of Saraswati Thakur, the commentary of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and the commentary of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And he did a fantastic job, I have to say. All right, so we ready? Prabhu, we can do Aarti. All right, everyone, thank you very much. For those who have joined us in the temple online and who will watch this later on, my obeisances to you all. Jai Srila Guru Maharaj, Jai Srila Gurudev. Jai Harinam Sankirtan, Ki Jai. Jai Go Premanandi, Hari Hari.